You were once a name they didn't remember, a shadow in the background. They walked past you, not even sparing a glance. You existed in their world, but only as an afterthought. They spoke over you, dismissed your ideas, and acted as if your presence held no weight. You reached out, offered your hand, but they never took it. They never saw you, never valued you, never cared. You were nothing to them. Until now. There were nights when the silence was unbearable, the kind that presses against your chest like an unseen force, making it hard to breathe. The weight of being overlooked, forgotten, discarded. It carved scars deep into your soul. You sat there, replaying moments in your head, wondering why you weren't enough, wondering what you lacked, what you had done wrong. You told yourself maybe if you tried harder, if you gave more, if you made yourself smaller, more palatable, maybe then they would finally see you. But they never did. They never would, because to them you were just a convenience, a placeholder, a tool to be used and discarded when no longer needed. And oh, how they used you. They smiled in your face, called you a friend, a brother, a sister, a partner, until they didn't. They drained you dry, took every ounce of goodness you had to offer, then tossed you aside like you were never there. Your kindness was not appreciated, it was exploited. Your loyalty was not respected, it was mocked. You gave and gave until you had nothing left, and when you needed them the most, they vanished. They moved on, as if you were just a temporary stop on their journey, while you were left in the ruins, wondering how you could have ever been so blind. But something happened in the silence. In that emptiness, in that unbearable loneliness, something began to stir, a shift, a realization. You weren't broken, you were just loading. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, it wasn't your end. It was your beginning. They thought they had crushed you, buried you in the depths of their indifference. But what they didn't realize was that you were a seed. And seeds don't die in the darkness, they grow. You see, pain is a strange thing. It either destroys you or transforms you. And you chose transformation. You took every rejection, every betrayal, every ounce of pain, and you turned it into fuel. You didn't beg, you didn't plead, you didn't waste your breath trying to make them see your worth. Instead, you disappeared. You withdrew into the shadows, not to hide, but to build, to sharpen, to prepare. Because one day they would look for you. One day they would wonder where you went. One day they would hear your name in places they never expected, spoken with respect they never gave you. And on that day they would realize you were never the forgotten one. They were. There comes a moment, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when something inside you shifts. It isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, but it is final. The moment you realize you have only two choices: remain buried in the ashes of their neglect, suffocated by the weight of their indifference, or rise. No one is coming to save you. No one will suddenly wake up and realize your worth. You can either accept their version of your story, where you are nothing more than a forgotten footnote, or you can rewrite it. That moment, that was your turning point. For so long, you believed their lies. You let them define you, let them shrink you, let them mold you into someone who doubted their own existence. They made you think you were small, that you weren't good enough, that you would always be behind them, always needing them, always dependent on their approval. But what they didn't know, something untamed, something unstoppable. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to be just another shadow in the background. They just convinced you to believe that. And now, those illusions are crumbling. You didn't rise overnight. It wasn't a miracle, it was a war. One you fought in silence. While they laughed, you worked. While they celebrated, you built. They partied and you planned. They wasted their time believing they had already won, while you sharpened your mind, your body, your soul. The darkness they abandoned you in, you turned it into your training ground. You studied, you disciplined yourself, you became the thing they never expected, unbreakable. They thought they had buried you, they thought you were finished, but they never understood that fire doesn't die when it's smothered, it spreads. Every insult, every rejection, every betrayal, it was fuel. You burned with a quiet fury, a hunger that only grew stronger with time. They mistook your silence for weakness. They assumed you had given up. They never imagined that their absence, their mockery, their betrayal, those would be the very things that forged you into something unstoppable. And now, the irony is poetic. The people who left you behind, the ones who forgot your name, the ones who never saw your worth, they gave you the very reason to rise. Their betrayal didn't break you, it built you. Their absence didn't weaken you, it strengthened you. Their dismissal, it was the spark that lit the fire they will never be able to extinguish. Because now, you don't just exist, you dominate. And the people who once acted like you were invisible, they will have no choice but to watch. Something is different. They can feel it. The same people who used to laugh at your efforts, who once dismissed you without a second thought, now shift uncomfortably when your name is mentioned. It used to mean nothing to them, a ghost of a memory, a reminder of someone they thought would never amount to anything. But now it carries weight. Now it lingers in the air like a storm approaching the horizon. They can't explain it, but they know. You are no longer the person they abandoned. It starts with whispers, the quiet murmurs of people noticing your transformation, the sudden double takes when they catch a glimpse of you. Stronger, sharper, unbothered. You walk differently. You talk differently. You no longer shrink yourself to fit their expectations. You no longer seek their validation. You have become a force, and forces don't beg to be noticed. They demand it. And the ones who once left you behind, they are starting to feel something they never expected. Fear. At first they try to ignore it. They convince themselves that you're just lucky, that this is temporary, that you'll come crawling back eventually. But then the realization sets in. You're not chasing anymore. You're not reaching out. You're not waiting for their approval. You are silent, and that silence is louder than thunder. They scroll through their feeds and see your name where they never expected it. They hear your success mentioned in rooms they thought were out of your reach. They feel the shift, the power that is no longer in their hands. You used to be at their beck and call, a convenient afterthought, but now your absence is deafening. And it's not just emotional, it's tangible. The weight of your absence settles in like an emptiness they can't fill. They underestimated you. They assumed you were replaceable. But now, there's a void where you used to be, a missing piece that no one else can quite fit. They thought leaving you behind meant they were ahead. They thought discarding you meant they had won. But what they failed to realize is that you weren't just a part of their story. You were the foundation. And while they scramble, while they try to make sense of what's happening, you are still moving. Your growth isn't just personal, it's visible, it's undeniable. The success they swore you'd never have is now written in places they can't escape. Your momentum is unstoppable. Your presence is irreplaceable. And they are finally starting to see the truth that was there all along. They were never your ceiling. They were only a chapter. And that chapter is long gone. The balance has shifted. The same people who once treated you as insignificant, who walked past you without a second thought, are now the ones struggling to keep their own world from falling apart. They were so certain of their place, so convinced that they were untouchable, that they never stopped to consider what would happen when the ground beneath them began to crack. And now it is crumbling. One by one, the things they relied on start slipping away. The friendships they thought were solid, shallow. The security they took for granted, fragile. The confidence they once had in their position, shaken. Life has a way of humbling those who believe they are above it all. And now the same people who once looked down on you are finding themselves on unstable ground. At first, they don't see it for what it is. They think they can fix it, patch the holes, move forward as if nothing has changed. And then, out of instinct, they reach for something familiar. You. They reach out, acting like nothing happened, acting like they never ignored you, never discarded you, never treated you like you were invisible. But this time, you don't answer. The access they once had, gone. You are no longer available. You are no longer waiting, no longer desperate for their recognition. And the moment they realize that, the fear sets in. Because it was never just about you. They thought they were the ones holding the power, but in reality, you were the glue holding them together. Your presence, your energy, your efforts, you were the foundation. And without you, everything starts to unravel. They don't just feel your absence, they are haunted by it. The spaces you once filled are empty. The conversations they once ignored now seem eerily quiet. The moments they once dismissed as insignificant, now they replay them in their minds over and over, realizing how much they took for granted. They thought they could replace you, but now, standing in the emptiness where you used to be, they see the truth. They didn't just lose you, they lost everything you brought with you. And then, the regret sinks in. A regret far deeper than just forgetting you. They regret ever underestimating you, because now they see it clearly. You weren't just someone in the background, you weren't just an extra in their story. You were the story, and now they are nothing more than a footnote in yours. The truth has finally surfaced, the truth they spent years ignoring, the truth they buried beneath their arrogance. You never needed them, they needed you. They paraded around like they were ahead of you, like they were superior, like you were the one struggling to keep up. But in reality, they were the weight dragging you down. The moment they walked away, the moment they cut you off, the moment they underestimated you, that was the moment you were set free. And now, here you stand, not just risen, but reborn. Everything they swore you'd never achieve is right before their eyes. The success they never believed in, it's here. and it's bigger than anything they could have imagined. They see your name in places they never thought possible, hear your voice in conversations they swore you'd never be a part of. They watch, stunned, as the same person they discarded is now standing at a level they could never reach. Your empire has risen, not by their hands, not by their validation, but by your own unstoppable will. And now, like clockwork, they come crawling back. The same people who once dismissed you now want to be a part of your world. They send messages, they leave comments, they try to act as if the past never happened. They beg for your presence, your friendship, a second chance. But here's the thing, you don't owe them anything. You don't need revenge, you don't need to rub it in their faces. Their regret is punishment enough. Because the greatest victory? Walking away. Not with anger, not with bitterness, just pure, undeniable success. You don't even need to look back. Let them sit in the ruins of their own choices. Let them feel the emptiness they created. You are too busy winning. Time has a way of erasing names. The ones who once stood above you, the ones who laughed at your struggles, the ones who never thought twice about leaving you behind, they are fading. They were so sure of their place, so convinced that they would always be relevant, but life has a way of humbling those who believe they are untouchable. Now they are the ones forgotten. Their names no longer carry weight, their voices no longer matter. The world moves forward and they are left behind, ghosts of a past that no one remembers. The same way they ignored you, the same way they acted like you didn't exist, now they are experiencing that same fate. They scroll through their feeds, they hear the conversations, and they realize their time is over. But you are different. You didn't just rise, you became something greater. You became an era, a symbol, a force that cannot be ignored. Your success is not just about proving them wrong anymore. It is about building a legacy, a name that will be remembered, a presence that will be felt long after you are gone. They tried to erase you, but instead, you became permanent, and now there is a message that must be delivered. To anyone who has ever been overlooked, underestimated, discarded, this is your moment. This is proof that being forgotten does not mean you are powerless, that being ignored does not mean you are worthless. You hold the power to turn silence into strength, to turn rejection into a reason to rise. Because in the end, the ones who tried to bury you, they will disappear. And you will stand. There are still those who sit in the dark, feeling the same emptiness you once did. The ones who are overlooked, forgotten, cast aside like they never mattered. They wake up every day carrying the weight of rejection, drowning in silence, wondering if they will ever be seen. To them, you have a message, a promise. Your time is coming. You were once there, lost in the shadows, questioning your worth. But now you stand as living proof that pain is not the end, that the ones who are ignored today are the ones who will dominate tomorrow. Your suffering was never for nothing. It was a test, a transformation, a fire forging you into something unbreakable. Because there is a formula to this, an undeniable truth written in the history of every person who has ever risen from nothing. Pain plus discipline plus patience equals unstoppable power. Pain sharpens you. It forces you to evolve. It teaches you lessons no comfort ever could. Discipline keeps you moving when the world gives you every reason to stop. When the setbacks come, when the loneliness is unbearable, when doubt whispers in your ear. Discipline drowns out the noise. And patience is the secret weapon. The understanding that real power is built in silence, not in haste. Those who wait, those who endure, those who stay relentless in their vision, they are the ones who rise in ways no one ever expected. And now, you are no longer just a success story. You are the blueprint. You didn't just prove them wrong, you showed others how to do the same. The ones who still struggle, the ones who feel invisible, the ones who are waiting for their moment, they look at you and see possibility. You turned your pain into a weapon, your setbacks into stepping stones, your rejection into a reason to build something greater than revenge, a legacy. Because in the end, this was never about them. It was never about proving them wrong. It was about becoming everything they said you couldn't be. And now, you are.